All right, we are live.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 on Monday, March the 1st, 2021, and this is the Real Property Committee meeting. And we're conducting this meeting as a virtual meeting due to COVID-19 pandemic, and we're working on a plan at some point to get back in person, but also a plan that we can continue to utilize Zoom or some sort of recording where we can have our citizens be able to access us appropriately. We will move on to the agenda, and I'd like to call to order the meeting and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. And I would also like to acknowledge that we have all of our committee members here, Councilmember Moy, Councilmember Popson, and so we're ready to go. So with that, I'd like to open it up in terms of the approval of previous meetings minutes from February the 1st, 2021. So do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any citizens' comments, Ron?
We do not currently have any citizens' comments through the online form, and also we did not have anybody sign up to speak.
Okay, and again, we'd like to encourage any of our citizens or residents who want to participate either by Zoom or written comments, please do so if they wish. How about Marina Comments, item number 4? Do we have any of the Marina tenants that wish to speak?
I did not receive any comments from Marina tenants.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to old business. And with that, 5A under old business, update on the Marina Dock Rehabilitation Project. So I think, Ron, you got some information for us on that. So if you take that away, please.
I do. I spoke with Kirby Marshall earlier today. He stated that the change order work is ongoing with regards to getting that executed and everything. He also stated that the floating docks, the first shipment should be in by the end of the month. So we're making some good progress there. Additionally, Rusty, I heard that, was it you and Desiree that met out there with Kirby recently to discuss some spots on the bulkhead? That actually has a very small amount of rust, but what appeared to be a large amount of staining due to some rain that happened shortly after the coating was put on. So they're going to recoat those spots, but it's not anything to be concerned about, according to Kirby.
Okay, I'd like for us to stay on top of that. No, it wasn't Desiree and me. Basically, I was walking the property there with the marina manager, and as we were walking down towards the fuel hut, I noticed some staining or rust there and pointed it out. And actually, the marina manager pointed out to me first, and we both looked at it closely. I took a photo of it, which I sent to Desiree, sent to Jimmy Carroll, and it certainly looks like rust. I mean, if it's any rust at all, I mean, I think we could have an issue in the future. So I want us to really stay on top of that, and we may need to take another little tour down there at some point. And that may be something Councilmember Popson, you may want to help us address with as well. You got something there?
Well, yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. When did y'all look at it? Because I was down there about a week or 10 days ago, walking around, and it all looked where the fuel hut is on that side of the boat ramp. Everything looked really, really good. They weren't on the other side yet, but I've been trying to get down there after you made the comment at the council meeting that you saw some rust or some spots. So. But you were there recently when you saw it?
Yeah. It was a little over a week ago, and it was down in the area where the Osprey would normally be, down in that area down there, not near the fuel hut. Okay, so if you get a chance, you may want to take a look at that. But it just seemed to be concerning to me what I saw that we just recently had those bulkheads coated, and you could see definitely some brown there. Ron, if you need a photo of that, and council members, if you'd like to have a photo, I'll be happy to forward it to you as well. I know that Desiree and Jimmy and Carol both got it. So
Sure. So anyway, as I did mention, Kirby said that he had taken a look at it with the people who were doing the subcontractor who was doing the coating, and they said that they would recoat those spots to ensure that there were no, longstanding issues, and that he didn't see anything that would indicate that this was going to be a serious problem.
okay.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. Ron, remind me, what kind of warranty is on this coating?
I would have to research that and get back to you.
Okay.
That's a good question. One we need to know. Would be good to have that information.
This is the coating that we ultimately, there was two components to it and they couldn't find the other one, or it was discontinued. And so they said, hey, the original base coating is sufficient and we don't need the top coating. That's what we're the coating in question, right?
That's
That's
exactly
my
right.
understanding of the situation. Yes.
Right. They initially told us that there was going to be an epoxy that to seal that, and that it wasn't needed. And I think that was a $37,000 positive change for us, and being able to save that. And in addition to that, Councilmember Moore, they did say that they could no longer get that particular product anyway, but that it wasn't necessary. But I think back to Councilmember Popson's question about the warranty, that's something we really need to dig into and make sure we have the proper information on that. Okay, anything else in regards to the dock rehabilitation project? You said that by the end of the month, we'll have the first docks in, and that's the end of March, basically, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. We're running a number of weeks behind on all of this, but I think we've all talked plenty in council meetings and this committee meeting too, that there are a lot of delays out there too on some of the materials due to all kinds of reasons, I guess COVID and just supplies in general.
Yeah, certainly the weather has not done us any favors with regards to shipment timelines.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on item A? Any questions? Okay. All right. Let's move on to 5B, which is the update on the proposed ADA compliant dual purpose beach boardwalk at 42nd Avenue, beach access. And I see that Douglas has joined us here as well. So Douglas or Ron, do you guys want to bring us up to date on this, please?
So Douglas, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the situation is we are about to go out for an RFP on this. But first we have to get a reapproval from OCRM for the path due to a change in materials. And then we're trying to get our landscape architect to also do some designs that would go with the RFP so that people would know exactly what they're building.
That's correct. The the only thing I would add is that I think it was this committee specifically that asked about extending the boardwalk farther seaward to get through the soft sand. And the city applied for a permit through OCRM in 2017 to extend all of our boardwalks that have all of our significant boardwalks and paths. The one, I think it was 5th, 9th, Front Beach, 21st, and 42nd, to do that on all of those. And we were denied in 2017 permission to do that. I did circle back up with them this month and just verified that, there's nothing that changed that would allow us to or make us think that we could get permission to do that. And they did confirm that nothing has changed other than the fact that they have actually, after we applied in 2017, they did create a general permit that basically established the rules that we would need to adhere to. And they included in that permit the express limitation that the mats not be extended any farther towards the ocean than either the seaward toe of the primary dune or the first stable line of vegetation, whichever is closest to the ocean. So we can't, we have taken an additional measurement based on that feedback to see exactly how far we think we can go, so that the plans will be, they basically will include a length that will be as long as we can get away with OCRM. So we've had clarity on that. And then as Ron has said, once we've gotten all of these kind of parameters ironed out and we know exactly what it is that we want to go out to bid for, the next step will be to have our designer actually put this into the plan. As you'll recall, the last plan still had two boardwalk. It had the Moby mat and then the separate boardwalk. So we need to update that so that everybody who's giving us a price will be pricing the same product. So I suspect that, and then ultimately, once we get the plan, we will need to go back through OCRM to just get their final blessing. They have permitted us. We already have a permit for Moby mat. I think it's possible that they would say this is actually closer to what we prefer than Moby mat. So I think it's a possibility that they will tell us that we don't need a permit, but could be that they do tell us we need a permit. But in the event that they do need a permit, I wouldn't expect a terribly long turnaround. I would think more in the, neighborhood of 60 days. And I think we could do the bidding concurrent with that, just to kind of shorten up the time frame a bit. So a lot of moving parts, but I think they're kind of all coming together at the same time.
So that could be done concurrently, though, you think?
Yes,
Doug?
I think so. Yeah. The only other bit of information to add is, and I think we've probably been hearing it with other construction projects, but this is a lumber product that we're putting down there, and the prices of lumber have been skyrocketing. The supplier that we've been talking to has told us that this particular material has only gone up, I think it was about 2-3%. He did say, though, that his supply chain is only guaranteeing pricing for 2 weeks. So he's kind of anticipating that, it could escalate, but at the time, currently it has not really gone kind of through the roof as other lumber seems to have done.
Right.
It's an ePay product, right, Douglas?
Correct. Yeah, is that more stable in pricing for some reason?
As far as I'm hearing, yes.
Okay, that's probably the reason, I guess. It went up $1,500 in the last 6 months. So not really much of a difference for us, which is good. And maybe that'll stay the case.
It's really kind of surprising, isn't it? I mean, it's such a popular product that's being used now. I mean, you think just nothing more than supply and demand, it would have gone up quite a bit. But
well, it stays at a premium. I mean, I do think it's kind of always very expensive. So I guess we're comparing slightly more expensive over the top of really expensive to begin with.
Right. It's also good to hear that you circled back around with the OCRM, because I had that on my questions as to whether we were able to reach out to them. And it sounds like, once you take a look at that and do the other measurements, that there may be additional length over and above what we initially thought.
Yes. So I will say that from the plans that we had done, and now those plans are 5-6 years old, there has been accretion there. So I think the new measurement is 30 or 40 feet longer than the old measurement. Still, you're going to have people in, that have challenges, mobility challenges, will still have a fair stretch of very soft sand to get through, which is unfortunate, but they're closer than they were when we originally had the plans done, which is good.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Douglas, would it be safe to assume that we would survey that line where it sort of starts and stops? So when we do go out to the RFP, we've got apples to apples, and then we don't later on find out that we didn't go far enough and we've got a change order coming. And lately our change orders haven't been popular. So it would be fair to say we could at least survey that area to where they know where to stop, stay apples to apples on the RFP.
Well, Kevin, the idea was so that the line, literally the line in the sand for OCRM is the first stable vegetative line or the seaward-most toe of the primary dune, which we would not need a surveyor to give us that judgment. I mean, we take a measuring wheel out, but we do plan to specify exactly that dimension. Currently, it's 280 feet. So that would, I wouldn't really foresee a reason to have it resurveyed. We could. Unfortunately, the surveyor that did the initial one is retired, but we could probably get him out of retirement. But I think it's a visual cue, and we do, like I said, we will put, and it will be in the RFP exactly how many feet it needs to extend from the edge of the asphalt towards the ocean.
And that works as well. So.
Yeah, we've been doing that kind of periodically, and we will. It is a very dynamic. It's amazing how, you let 2 months go by and it will look different out there.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty much all accreting there too.
Yeah, it's getting longer for sure.
Yeah. Councilmember Moy, anything? Okay. All right. Anything else, Douglas, in regard to that?
That's all I have.
Okay. All right. So let's move on then to item 5C. And that's the update on the proposed public dock and green space at the marina, Alapan Marina. Anything on that at this point, Ron, you want to share with us, or Douglas?
Yeah, so obviously this is dependent upon ongoing litigation, so there's not a whole lot that we can say. I will say that we are still in the process of design on that public dock and green space. Is that correct, Douglas?
The only thing that I would add to that is we are, Kelly Messier, the designer, has agreed to continue to work, and we are trying to get, just for a working number, a budget together, and she's agreed to help us with that. She's helping us kind of identify appropriate fixtures and just generally establishing a budget so we know what, how big of a project we're working with. So that's, we're in active dialogue with Kelly on that. We also are in communication with the marina restaurant owners as they develop their parking plan to hopefully, they've been gracious in offering to keep a strip clear, and we're just trying to kind of work with them to ensure that there's going to be some tie together between the green space and their parking lot and ultimately their building there. So we're still plugging away on that project.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
A few real property meetings ago, there was talk about making sure the marina manager and the restaurant saw this plan and gave us any input. I realize you just mentioned the restaurant guys. Has Brian weighed in on any of this on the plan?
I have not been part of that. If it's happened, I'm unaware of it. And we definitely have. There are key, I don't know what it is, 4 or 5 spaces that he currently manages that the plan does contemplate basically moving those spaces and accounting for them in a different area. So I don't know that coordination has happened, Kevin, but we can certainly, it happened initially, but I don't know that it's happened again here most recently with the most recent version of the plan, so we can plan on doing that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I don't have the answer for that either. So Councilmember Moy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll piggyback on Councilmember Popson's. I think that's a good question. And the more that we keep all of the parties that are the stakeholders who are involved, the faster we can move once we're ready to go. My comments are related to that. First of all, thank you, Douglas, for the continued work to keep things moving in the ways that we can. I think specifically getting a number is a good move because I think that opens up the door to the next step, which is locating funding sources. We can't really do that until we know what it's going to cost. And so this would go to all of city staff to the extent that we can basically have everything ready to go once litigation is cleared up. I think that would be my goal and my request of staff is, hey, let's make sure we have as much as in the way of having plans, costs, and funding sources ready to go. And so as soon as things are cleared up, there's no bottleneck of something that could have been anticipated and cleared up ahead of time. And specifically, I know we mentioned this before, but I'll keep reminding, there's been a number of residents who have raised their hand and said, hey, I definitely want to provide funding for this. And we know that we've successfully had community-driven funding for other projects of this nature in the past. So rather than starting with the general budget, I think looking for the community who wants this, who wanted to fund it, looking to outside first, seeing what we can cover, and then moving to alternative sources.
I totally concur, Council Member. Desiree has joined us. So how are you, Desiree?
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Yeah, we've had, I guess there's been a number of residents who have provided quite significant input to Kelly on this project, as well as Councilmember Moy had mentioned too, that are anxious to get involved and helping doing some planning around this. And I think to the point we made earlier here, the more that we can get done, while all this is pending, and be ready to hit the ground running, then the better off we will be on this particular project. Anything else to add from anyone? All right, thanks for the update. And let's move on to new business. And item 6A under new business is discussion of a potential partnership with the Alapan Water and Sewer Commission for the creation of green space at the 7th Avenue lot. So Ron or Desiree or Douglas, whoever wants to take this on and kind of update the committee here, that would be great.
I can, well, I can take this. It takes a village, huh? So you all know that the Water and Sewer Commission has purchased. I think all that transaction has been completed. Douglas can confirm the purchase of the lot. It said the triangle lot at 7th Avenue and Palm Boulevard. Initially, when they came to the city requesting some adjustments to the code that would allow them to install a pump station in that area that would be consistent with their sewer master plan, they had indicated that they have an interest in partnering with the city for optimizing the use of that lot. They really need it for the pump station, and that lot is larger than that. And there were some discussions about working together and developing that into some sort of green space or park for the benefit of the public. So now that they have completed the transaction and purchased the lot, I wanted to bring this up to real property and have a conversation about some ideas that you may have, some ideas that we have. I've requested a meeting with Chris for this week. We still haven't finalized it, but starting to talk about the possibilities for that location and really working through with the city about what the best use for that area is. One idea that I had, for what it's worth, is creating some sort of public, like a garden, something very similar to Magnolia Park, is it, Douglas, that we've talked about in West Ashley. Some opportunities for folks to plant vegetables and really come together as a community. There's potential application through the rec center to provide some gardening classes and really have something different and new in the community that brings people together. Certainly that's just one idea. I know that the Douglas has had also conversations with Chris towards this end about what would be possible. But I wanted to bring it up before city council, because it won't even though it won't be the city's real property because we won't own it. They're really looking at the city to sort of take spearhead whatever initiative I think we would like in that area. So Douglas, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it, Desiree.
Is that a well-defined area? I know that we have the lift station there eventually, and it's going to be a portion of the lot, but do we know what kind of dimensions we're looking at for some sort of garden, park?
So,
Well, we have, go ahead, Douglas.
I would just say that we do know the exact dimensions for what's going to be taken out for the lift station.
Right.
There was a little bit of, and I will say that the Water and Sewer Commission had identified the corner that they planned to put the lift station in, which was generally the corner that was farthest from Palm Boulevard. There was some, I guess there were some comments from the neighbors around the parcel requesting that they consider a different location for their equipment. And I think that, I know that the way the Board of Zoning Appeals left it was, if you all choose to move it from the corner you've identified, nothing in the board's ruling would keep you from doing that. So basically, it's given the flexibility for the Water and Sewer Commission to work with the adjacent neighbors if the adjacent neighbors wanted them to shift it to one location and everybody agreed it was a better location. The board didn't want to stand in the way of that. So all of that to say that we know the dimensions, but I can't say concretely that we know exactly the location within the triangle that the lift station will ultimately go to.
Okay. Councilmember Popson?
Yeah, Douglas, I'm assuming that around the lift station, there'll be some type of dog-eared fence and then some landscaping and the fence gets painted at Charleston Green and then some landscaping around it to buffer the fence. Is that in the
That is correct. All of that, I can say that all of that's correct with the exception of the Charleston Green. I can't tell you definitively that the
Can't
paint.
confirm that.
But yes, a fence and a vegetative buffer all the way around.
Yeah, just an idea on the paint that I've done before, kind of blends in, but
Yep.
I think a park would be a great idea. I think the people that surround it probably would go along with that. We'd have to kind of get into a detail of how we park people. I mean, obviously that section of the island can walk to it, but other people, if they're going to want to enjoy it, we'd either have to drive or their golf carts or their bike or whatever. So we could maybe have to think about how that comes into play. But I think that would be a great spot for a park. I mean, you overlook the marsh right there. And I don't think we'd get opposition from the surrounding neighbors. Just an idea.
Councilmember Moy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we should acknowledge that this is, I think, a really good step forward in the Water and Sewer Commission and city relationship, whereas it hasn't always been incredibly, not that it's been in any way adverse, but maybe not as collaborative as this shows. So I think that's a great recognition and acknowledgement for both our staff and the Water and Sewer Commission. So way to go. In terms of the direction that we take, we know more than anything else, what we can count on from our community is a high level of engagement. It seems to me like it might be worthwhile to come up with a few concepts, the community garden being one, maybe just a general park whatever else that is kind of typical of parcels this size, and let the community have a say so in what we do with this. Obviously, the Water and Sewer Commission has to sign off on the concepts. We have to sign off, but it seems like there's probably enough different directions. There's 3 or 4 where the community can weigh in and say, this is what we'd like to see there.
We probably should do all of that before we even take it further to council. Everybody agree? What do you think, Desiree?
I think that's a great idea, frankly. And, once we can identify what the possibilities are with the Water and Sewer Commission, we can develop a handful of concepts of what that could look like and informally present it to the community. I don't think it would require sort of a referendum type of engagement, but something informal where folks can weigh in and we can know the level of engagement that we expect moving forward. I think it's a great opportunity for some volunteerism for our community. And if we, get their buy-in from the get-go, the more likely that they will be engaged throughout the whole process and afterwards. So I think that Councilmember Moy brings up a great idea, totally doable.
Okay. So do you want to take that away and start putting some ideas together and come back to us? Is that your plan at this point?
Yeah, well, I'll talk to Chris and our friends across the street and kind of come up with what's possible. Obviously, what kind of infrastructure is in place there, what would be necessary depending on, some of these ideas that we have floated at staff level, and see how we can put that pen to paper and show it in a way that's visually, people can visually understand what we're talking about, and then we can bring it before real property for some more discussion and feedback and go from there.
Okay. Any other input, fellow council members or anyone? Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to item 6B under new business. And that's discussion of the full year 22 operating budget for the Alapan Marina and Front Beach.
All right. In your packets, you have the budget for the Marina Enterprise Fund and for Front Beach and Parking Management. I'll go and touch on the highlights for the Marina Enterprise Fund first. For FY22, in the Marina revenues, you can see an increase, a 33% increase, and that is being driven mostly by the income from the Marina restaurant. In FY21, we didn't have any, and we've included the proceeds associated with the lease that the city entered with the folks at the new tenants at the Marina restaurant. For Marina General and Administrative, you see a 63% decline, and that is mostly being driven by line item number 22, which is professional services. In FY21, we had included a provision for a real estate consultant to get us to, go through the whole lease, the development of the RFP and negotiating a lease with a new tenant. So that line item has been reduced to $240,000, which includes some legal fees and fees associated with the underground storage tanks. Marina store expenses remain flat, same as FY21, just some insurance proceeds, insurance expenses, depreciation, water and sewer, and a small item there for professional services. And those are associated with, again, underground storage tank fees that the city pays to DHEC. For marina operations, we see in FY22 a 53% decline from the year before. And again, you can see how that is driven by the $334,000 that we had included in FY21 for the bulkhead recoating project, which is now it's undergoing right now. For the Marina restaurant, we have just some small some expenses associated with insurance, liability insurance for the city. Water sports, Marina water sports, in FY21, we include, again, insurance expenses, same as last year, nothing more. Transfers in, obviously, this is the enterprise fund, so there are items that are not capitalized, so we look at the cash balance. For FY22, we are assuming a 75% transfer in from state aid tax to cover 75% of the bond proceeds for the Marina Dock project. We're covering 75% of that payment with us transfer in from state aid tax. You add in non-cash depreciation at 248,000, less the principal payment for the Marina Dock bond, and you come out with an ending cash balance of 264, which is significantly more than what we saw in FY21, and we see how that projection continues to escalate and grow through forecast years in FY26. That's all I have for the Marina. I'll go ahead and,
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you. Desiree, can you just give me a quick exact summary of why we're required to pay insurance on the restaurant and the water sports?
Mm-hmm. Well, the city pays for liability. So any liability that would fall on the city, that's covered as part of the city's overall premium that we have covered through SMRF. So that covers anything that, again, it's just a liability protection on behalf of the city. They have their own. They have their own, and they have to name the city as an additional insured. But that is something that the city has historically covered as part of just normal due diligence.
Okay. Thank you.
So they definitely have to add the city on their own liability insurance?
They do. They do have to add the city. They have minimum insurance requirements, and they also have to name the city as an additional insured through their insurance. But the city carries liability insurance as well.
Okay. Councilmember Popson, anything to add?
No, sir.
All right, Desiree, we'll move on then.
All right, move on to Front Beach and parking management. For the first section, general fund, BSO, wages and fringes, we have no changes from FY21. That is an item that we are still working on, whether or not we feel and have the need to increase our BSO capabilities for the summer. So right now it doesn't show any difference from FY21, but that may change between now and the first draft of the budget that's still being looked at. For parking management and Front Beach maintenance, under Muni ATAX and Muni ATAX fund, you'll see a 24% increase from the previous year. And that is the change is associated with an addition that we have made under capital outlay, $25,000 to rehab the white fencing at Front Beach. In previous years, we have included a provision of $100,000 to replace the white fence. $100,000 is not, it's not even, it won't cover even a portion of the cost that it would take to replace all the fence. So what we're going to try to do is replace those sections that are in really bad shape, and the plan is to paint the remaining of the fence that's there. There's some sections that are in good shape, and we would like to see it colored with a Charleston green. Kevin Thompson likes that. It does do wonders to hide, hide the fence. When it's white, it's sort of right in your face and right there, and whenever it rusts, it's hard to miss. So Robert Acero and I have been thinking about some other options of what we can do to protect it and enhance it without really having the need to replace the whole fencing, because that is a huge undertaking. Going through state aid tax fund, we have roughly a 24% increase. That includes some the biggest expense that I want to highlight here is under capital outlay, line 47. We have included for the next 5 years, approximately $70,000 every year to repair the sidewalks on Ocean Boulevard between 10th and 14th. As you all know, that section is owned by the city, so we are responsible for those expenses, as well as the expense associated with paving the road. We do work with Charleston County and request TSD funding for that portion, but the sidewalks, it's something that do need some work. We've been able to do some repairs here and there, but it hasn't been looked at in a few years. So our goal is in 5 years, potentially maybe less, but having replaced and repaired all of them. So that is in addition to what you've seen in other fiscal years prior.
Desiree, I've noticed that some of the curbs down in that area too are all broken up, I guess because of the heavy trucks that get in there for deliveries, and there's tight turns right there near the Windjammer going back down the down Front Beach. So all of those repairs get made as part of this particular line here as well.
We can certainly add that to the scope. We haven't done a very thorough assessment of all the areas that would need to be fixed. This is just a placeholder, but we'll definitely look at that sort of holistically and look at any other locations that it would make sense to include as part of the scope of a project like this.
Thank you. That's where I was going with that, because if you go down there and look closely, there's a number of areas there that are actually pretty rough, pretty unstable.
Yeah.
Councilmember Moy?
No, I just had an observation. I didn't mean to cut you off, Desiree. Just even if you take out the 70,000 capital outlay, which is sort of I wouldn't say one time, but a kind of sporadically occurring expense that we have to take on. We're spending almost $200,000 a year for a public restroom for all of our visitors that is free to use. And, I think we've been trying to indicate some of the things that Alapan does above and beyond what we're required to do. And I think that's, $200,000 a year is nothing to sneeze at. Good, just note for us to have in talking point.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I do want to mention to you all that we're also in the process of reviewing the expenditures associated with replacing the kiosks. Last year, we talked about our goal is to transition out of physical kiosks down at Front Beach and sort of move towards a mobile application for paying both at the on-street lots, on-street spaces between 10th and 14th, but also with the municipal lots. This year, we are getting some of the kiosks that are not functioning. We're getting them fixed for this last season. The plan would be to either we have included in the police department's budget this year a license plate reader that would work to allow and facilitate enforcement down at Front Beach. If the city pursues in the future paid parking island-wide, that would be something that we'd be looking at expanding. But we are not including any replacement costs associated with those kiosks. They are pricey. They're over $10,000 each. And you see in downtown Charleston, all of these communities are really moving away from having that physical infrastructure that does require maintenance, that does require are very high maintenance, to moving away from that. So we're going to be supporting the police department through some, providing resources that would facilitate them doing that, enforcing it. But that'll be an expense that hopefully we can take out of our books fairly soon.
That sounds good. Any input, Councilmember Popson or Moy?
I'm good.
All right. Is that it, Desiree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let's move on to miscellaneous business. And unless anyone has anything else to bring up, we'll just announce that our next meeting date is at 1:30 p.m. on Monday, April the 5th, 2021. April, right around the corner. So no executive session needed. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.